My husband took care of his first love throughout her entire pregnancy. When I was running a high fever, he was on his phone searching what to do when morning sickness is severe. For her, on the anniversary of my mother's death, he stood outside his first love's delivery room and prayed, may both mother and child be safe. That day, it was his first love who came out safe and sound, and it was him who lost his mind. Chapter 1. Philip smelled of alcohol as he leaned in and kissed me casually. My cheeks flushed, and I instinctively placed a hand over my belly, trying to shy away a little. Sensing it, he pulled me roughly into his arms and asked in a husky voice, "Why are you avoiding me?" I pressed my lips together and gave him a hint, turn off the light first. Only the lamp on his side of the bed was still on. Beside it, I had deliberately placed a copy of my prenatal checkup report. I was pregnant. I had planned to tell him tonight, but what caught his attention first was the sudden ring of his phone. Usually, he would just pick it up and hang up without a glance. But this time, his arm holding the phone froze, hovering above my report. On the screen, the caller ID lit up, Naomi. Naomi, Philip's first love. His grip around me unconsciously loosened. "I'll take this call," he said. He shut the door behind him. I stared blankly at the ceiling. He had received phone calls while with me before, and always answered them in front of me. Naomi was the exception. After a long while, the door opened again. He came back in smelling of cigarettes and leaned down to kiss me. Thinking of the baby in my belly, I instinctively turned my head, and his lips brushed the corner of my mouth. He frowned slightly and said, "You're acting weird tonight." Then he turned to change clothes. "A case just came up. You go ahead and sleep. No need to wait for me." Philip ran his own law firm. He never took emergency cases. Before leaving, he suddenly leaned over again. "Can you still smell smoke on me?" I was stunned for a second. He frowned and muttered, "I heard pregnant women shouldn't inhale smoke." My heart skipped a beat. I thought he had figured it out. But he straightened up, tousled my hair, and said, "Why am I even telling you? It's not like you're pregnant." And then he walked out of the bedroom without looking back. I stared at the prenatal report on the bedside table. If the one who's pregnant isn't me, then who? Later, I finally understood the one who was pregnant was Naomi. After Philip left, I called my best friend Carolina, planning to tell her about my pregnancy. "I have something to tell you, but promise me you won't get upset." But she cut me off. "Let me tell you 3 things first, and you try not to get upset. 1. Naomi's divorced. 2. Naomi's back. 3. Naomi's pregnant." Chapter 2. 3 simple sentences. Like stones thrown into a calm lake. Water splashed everywhere. My mind went blank. I was silent for about half a minute. Then I said, "I see. What were you about to tell me just now?" I made up an excuse. "I kind of feel like eating dumplings." Suddenly, I didn't want to tell anyone anything anymore. I had a crush on Philip since high school. Later, we ended up at the same university. We kept in touch occasionally. During senior year, he suddenly showed up at our farewell dinner. But he just kept drinking. His eyes were red. He didn't say a word. I took him home, completely drunk. He was tipsy but still half sober. "Helen?" "Philip. It's me," he said. "Let's give it a try." At the time, I thought my years-long crush had finally blossomed into something real. Later I found out that day was a special day. Philip said I didn't need to wait up. And indeed, I didn't wait for him all night. Instead, I got a WeChat friend request from Naomi. I accepted it, but she didn't say anything. She just posted a moment, a full-body mirror selfie. "Thank you for helping me set up my new place late at night. From now on, a new beginning, for me. And for you." Her hand was resting on her belly in the photo, which was slightly rounded. But what stung even more was the reflection in the mirror, half of a man's arm. On his wrist was the watch I had given Philip for our 1-year wedding anniversary. I checked the time. It was 12:43 a.m. Philip was helping his first love set up her new home. At the very moment I was ready to tell him we were expecting new life, he had gone to see Naomi instead. What a joke. The year I graduated, I too had struggled to find a place to live. Back then, Philip and I had just started dating. I didn't dare to trouble him. I handled the whole move by myself. I had no money and rented a single room in a rundown urban village. One night, a drunk man kept banging on my door. I was terrified. I called Philip, and the moment I heard his voice, all the emotions I had been holding in burst out. I sobbed uncontrollably. After learning what had happened, he called the police for me and rushed over himself. The next day I found out he had been on a business trip in another city. He had driven 2 hours straight through the night to get to me. I was worried about affecting his work, but he was upset that I had rented such an unsafe place. After that, he started helping me look for a new apartment in a safer neighborhood. Even paid the rent for a whole year up front. I didn't know what to do. With tears in my eyes, I mumbled, "Thank you. I'll pay you back." He let out an exasperated laugh, pulled me into his arms, and said, "Helen, I'm your damn boyfriend." I thought that kind of protection was a privilege reserved for being someone's girlfriend. But now, Naomi probably posted that just for me to see. As she wished. I gave it a like. Chapter 3. Philip didn't come home all night. I drifted off to sleep in a daze. The next morning, when I was getting ready for work, I saw the message he had left me. "It was really late last night. I didn't want to wake you, so I didn't come home. I'm heading straight to the firm this morning. I'll pick you up for dinner after work." I typed and deleted several messages over and over. I wanted to ask him if he knew about Naomi. I wanted to ask if he had spent the night with her. I wanted to tell him, "You're going to be a dad." But in the end, I said none of it. My stubbornness kicked in. I thought, these things, no matter what, they should come from Philip himself. "Okay," I replied. Right before I got off work, Carolina called and asked me to go to IKEA with her. "Philip's picking me up later for dinner." I told her, at least he has a shred of decency and isn't running straight to Naomi again. I said nothing. Just as I hung up, Philip called. "Sorry, Helen, I have to meet a client tonight. I don't think I'll be able to make dinner." I looked down. All right. I went to IKEA with Carolina. She wanted to buy a kid's desk for her niece, and I wandered off on my own. Turning a corner, "Philip, I don't want to change. This outfit looks weird with slippers." Suddenly, I saw Naomi, and standing in front of her was Philip. Philip, the one who told me he had a client meeting tonight. He was holding a pair of slippers in his hand, crouching down to take off Naomi's high heels, completely ignoring her playful protest. It's not good for a pregnant woman to wear heels for too long. Naomi kept saying she didn't want to, but still let him help her switch to the slippers, a sweet smile on her face. "Philip, you're going to be a great dad." Philip paused for a moment, and then a slight smile formed at the corner of his lips. Yeah, my heart ached. I had once said those exact words to Philip. When he told me he wanted us to have a baby, I had rambled on about how I wanted to decorate the nursery. Philip had pinched my cheek, helplessly saying, "If you described it to a designer like this, 9 out of 10 would go crazy." But just a few days later, he showed me a full design draft, turning my messy, scattered thoughts into a warm little world for a child. I had tears in my eyes and a strange fullness in my chest, like it was stuffed with cotton. I praised him seriously. "Philip, you're going to be a great dad." He hadn't replied at the time, and now, the one saying he'd be a good dad, was still him. I thought I should leave. If I called him out, the one who'd look pathetic would be me, not Naomi. But Naomi saw me. "Helen?" Her eyes lit up like she was seeing an old friend. She walked toward me quickly. In that moment, I saw Philip reach out to steady her and say, "Slow down," afraid she'd fall. I was the pathetic one. Naomi insisted on holding my hand to catch up and reminisce. I was silently angry that Philip had lied to me, yet could still face me so calmly. Even just a flicker of guilt or panic would have been better. Then I wouldn't feel so insignificant in this moment. I pulled my hand back. I didn't use much strength, just enough to free my hand from hers. But she was wearing slippers, and that small tug threw her off balance. Philip caught her. He frowned and looked at me. "Helen, Naomi is pregnant. Whose fault is that?" My nose burned. I clenched my fists so tightly that my nails dug into my palms, holding back the tears with everything I had. At the very least, I didn't want to look too pathetic. I forced a smile. "It's my fault. I'm sorry." Is that enough, Philip? Chapter 4. I remembered my very first job, where I was bullied by my coworkers. We were about to submit a bid, and only 2 days before the deadline did we realize there was a serious issue with the bidding documents. There was no question, we had to redo everything. But the senior employees, trying to dodge responsibility, collectively decided to pin the blame on me. I kept insisting it wasn't my fault. But no one believed me, not the managers, not the team. In the end, I was the one who took the fall. I was angry and felt wronged, but I was stubborn and didn't shed a single tear in front of them. It was only when Philip saw me and noticed something was off that he asked, "What's wrong?" If no one had asked, maybe I could have kept it bottled up forever. But with just that one question from Philip, my tears broke loose like a dam. I choked and sniffled, jumbling my words as I tried to explain what happened with the bid. Philip listened patiently the entire time. Then he gently wiped my tears and said, "Don't cry. With me, no one will ever wrong you again." Not long after, that company was exposed for tax evasion. It wasn't a big company to begin with, and once the investigation started, the entire place got shut down. I was stunned when I heard the news. That had been Philip and his law firm's doing. As I recalled all of it, the tears I had held back still fell, not because of how humiliating the current situation was. I just couldn't understand. How can people go back on their words so easily? The one who said I'd never be wronged was him. And now? I still believe in sincerity. But sincerity changes in an instant. Seeing me cry, Philip finally looked panicked. He let go of Naomi's hand and stepped forward to reach for me. "Helen." Just now I stepped back and hid my hands behind me, completely rejecting him. "Don't touch me," I said. His hand froze midair. Naomi glanced at me, then naturally pushed his empty hand down. "Helen, I'm Philip's client right now. I hired him to handle my divorce case. I just happened to be moving into a new place and needed to buy furniture. So I asked him to help. If you're upset and think it's inappropriate, then Philip and I will just call it a day." "Philip, I'll take a cab home. You take Helen back. Explain things properly to her. And don't lose your temper." After speaking, Naomi turned and walked away with poise. She was incredibly clever. The sensible, understanding one evokes sympathy. The one who refuses to let go becomes the irrational one. Back home, Philip handed me his phone. "Naomi is just my client. I don't even have her on WeChat. There's really nothing going on between us." But I was already tired. I had no desire to even look at his phone. I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I just ignored him. But he was the one who lost his temper. After I gave him the cold shoulder all night, he couldn't take it anymore. He gritted his teeth and yanked me out from under the blanket. "Helen, how long are you going to keep this up? Naomi already backed off today so you wouldn't get upset. She's pregnant. And she still gave way to you. Tell me, what do I have to do to make you satisfied?" My whole body was burning, my head dizzy, but somehow, I still wanted to laugh. So now I'm the unreasonable one? Naomi is pregnant. And what about me? My prenatal report was still sitting on the nightstand, clearly visible. Because of his profession, Philip was always hyper-aware of even the smallest changes around the house. If I threw out a single withered flower, he'd notice it immediately and bring home a new bouquet the next day, replacing all the flowers in the vase. And now, right there, inches away from him, was a prenatal report, but it was like he couldn't see it at all. Sure, I could just say the words, "Philip, I'm pregnant," but then what? Would he change his mind? Would he give up Naomi? Could I really pretend Naomi's special status didn't exist? At this point, whether I'm pregnant or not no longer matters. Some thoughts had finally started to take shape in my mind. Chapter 5. "Philip, I really don't want to talk right now. I'm exhausted. Can I just rest for a bit?" But Philip, the man who always appeared mature and composed in front of others, could be as stubborn as a child at times. "Sleep after we resolve this." I sighed and took his hand, placing it on my forehead. "Philip, I think I have a fever." He froze for a moment, then immediately stood up to rummage through the medicine box. "Why didn't you tell me earlier?" He placed a cooling patch on my forehead and brought me some medicine to take. I touched my belly and lowered my gaze. I hate bitter medicine. "Could you get me a piece of candy?" There was none at home, so Philip went down to the supermarket to buy some. As soon as he left, I got up and flushed the medicine down the toilet. When he came back, I calmly ate the candy he brought. Maybe it was my fragility after falling ill, or maybe he felt guilty after seeing me cry earlier that day. But tonight, Philip was being especially gentle. He stayed by my bedside the entire time. The water on the nightstand was always warm. Every 30 minutes, he checked my temperature and kept wetting towels to cool me down. Everything he did looked like love, but that didn't stop him from sitting by my side, caring for me, while also searching on his phone what to do when morning sickness is severe. Earlier, he had stepped out to take a call. As always, he only answered it outside the bedroom. There was only one person he would answer like that, Naomi. When he returned, I thought he was going to leave again, but instead, he checked my temperature, changed the cooling patch on my forehead, then sat back down. I turned to look at him, confused. He asked, "What's wrong?" I shook my head, said nothing, and closed my eyes to rest. But my senses were unusually sharp at that moment. The lights in the bedroom were dim, but the glow from his phone screen pierced through my eyelids. I couldn't help but open my eyes, and saw that he was indeed looking up what to do when morning sickness is severe. He typed out a message using the search results, then added, "Philip, pregnant women can't take just any medicine, it could affect the baby. I just ordered some oranges for you via express delivery. See if they help. If it doesn't get better, go register at the hospital." Naomi replied quickly, "Naomi, I'm scared to go to the hospital alone." "Philip, can you come with me?" "Philip, Helen has a fever. I can't leave." Naomi, "Okay. Take good care of her. I'll be fine on my own." She was a clever girl, and she knew Philip well. Philip didn't like clingy girls, but he was easily weighed down by guilt. So Naomi never clung, never caused a scene. She advanced by retreating, always calm and understanding, but still pulling gently on Philip's heart. Sure enough, just when the conversation could have ended, Philip paused, and still replied, "Philip, if you're still feeling sick tomorrow, I'll go to the hospital with you. Naomi, make sure you rest too. Don't wear yourself out taking care of someone else." Philip, got it. He set his phone down, turned over, and pulled me into his arms. He sighed next to my ear. "Helen, get better soon." Did he truly want me to recover quickly? Or did he just want me well enough so he could go to the hospital with Naomi without guilt? I felt strangely calm. It didn't matter anymore. Whichever it was, it didn't matter. My body was fairly strong, even without the medicine. The fever came down after a night of physical cooling. Philip had stayed up all night caring for me, and now he was finally asleep. I got up and made a big pot of rich porridge, enough for more than 2 people. After we finished eating, Philip looked at the leftovers. "I'll pack the rest and take it to the firm." "Okay." I found a thermal container for him and stuck a Buzz Lightyear sticker on top. Before leaving, he instinctively leaned in to kiss my forehead. I flinched reflexively. Then, realizing it was too abrupt, I reached out to adjust his tie before he could question it. He said nothing. He placed a hand on my forehead. "The fever's gone. Still feeling unwell?" "Much better." Philip left. I had taken the day off. I planned to go to the hospital for a prenatal checkup. On the way there in the taxi, I scrolled through WeChat moments. Naomi had posted an update. Morning porridge and a heart emoji. A photo of the thermal container, with the Buzz Lightyear sticker on it. I gave it a like and commented, "Was it good?" I made it. Chapter 6. It was as if I had a premonition. When I arrived at the hospital, I suddenly didn't feel like registering anymore. But I didn't leave either. I just sat quietly in the hospital lobby and waited. About half an hour later, Philip and Naomi walked in. Naomi was smiling as she spoke to him. He lowered his head slightly, his expression soft, listening intently. I tried hard to remember. Had Philip ever listened to me this gently before? The answer was yes. I've always been a lively person by nature, but at work I wasn't the type to chat much with colleagues. I'd bottle up everything and then spill it all at home, talking nonstop to Philip, and Philip would always put down whatever he was doing, patiently listen to all my nonsense, and hand me a glass of warm water at just the right moment. But that wasn't something he did just for me. That person could also be Naomi. Philip didn't see me. They stepped into the elevator. A pregnant woman who was there for a checkup approached me and asked for help. I thought for a moment and nodded. I accompanied her to the obstetrics department. Through the flow of people moving back and forth like currents, I saw Philip again, among the many couples waiting for checkups. He and Naomi looked completely in sync. In fact, because of their striking appearances, they stood out prominently in the crowd. Their child will definitely be beautiful, the pregnant woman next to me said with admiration. I looked at Philip but didn't respond. Then, suddenly, he looked up, past the sea of people, and saw me. In that instant, the entire noise of the hospital seemed to stop. He looked panicked and started striding toward me. I thought, second time, Philip. This time, I lifted the corners of my lips and smiled at him. He came over. His first instinct was to take my hand. Seeing that I didn't pull away, he finally let out a breath of relief. Naomi came to the firm today to drop off documents for her divorce case. She said she wasn't feeling well, so I brought her to the hospital. I know. I kept my smile at just the right level. Naomi had followed behind him. She looked at Philip holding my hand, then subtly looked away before turning to me. Helen. I asked Philip to come with me. Don't blame him. I smiled. Philip already told me. Naomi studied my expression. I looked her calmly in the eyes. Then suddenly, she smiled and said one word. Delicious. Was it? Delicious. Naomi's attack was so blatant. It went straight for the heart. I clenched my fists, keeping my face composed. Not now, Helen. Just wait a little longer. Philip bought a lot of groceries on the way home. He rarely cooked. But tonight, he was unusually diligent. He bought fresh flowers, lit candles, under the dim, romantic candlelight. He kissed my forehead and made a promise. Naomi and I are just friends. If it makes you unhappy, once I'm done with her divorce case, I won't have any further contact with her. I asked him, Philip, if Naomi had come back on the day we got married, would you still have married me? He went silent, and silence was the answer. Only then did he seem to realize he should have said something. I covered his mouth with my hand. Remember what you just said, Philip. People who break their promises get what they deserve. Chapter 7. Philip started spending more and more time with me, but Naomi still stood between us. It's just that, ever since things were brought into the open, in Philip's mouth, she was no longer a client without a name. He now referred to her directly as Naomi. As if, so long as he openly told me he was meeting Naomi, their relationship would remain purely professional, clean and innocent. Whenever that happened, I would simply nod faintly. But every time he said he was going to meet Naomi, I would ask him to bring something back for me. Nothing special, nothing urgent. Sometimes it was a few apples, sometimes a bowl of wontons, sometimes just a magazine. This went on for 2 weeks. One time, Philip told me he was going to meet Naomi to discuss work. And this time, deliberately, I didn't ask him to bring anything. He stepped out the door, then came back and asked, "You don't need anything today?" I shook my head. He looked at me insistently. "Are you sure there's nothing you want me to bring?" I gave a small smile. "We're out of soy sauce. Bring a bottle back, okay?" He looked like he'd won a prize. He kissed my forehead and left, completely satisfied. This sweet, picture-perfect exterior was only covering up the rot underneath. Philip's birthday was in 2 days. He usually celebrated it twice, once on the actual day, and once the day before. The early celebration was for his co-workers at the firm. He was the boss, so every year they would throw a birthday party for him at the office. The first year, Philip only celebrated on his actual birthday. That year, too, his co-workers had thrown the party, and he'd invited me to join, but I wasn't good at socializing. I was worried about being the only outsider and ruining the mood, so I declined. The next day, Philip asked me to celebrate with him alone. I asked why. He said, "If you weren't there, it doesn't count as a birthday." Starting the second year, he had the firm celebrate 1 day early, and saved the actual day just for me. This year was no different. As usual, I wasn't going to join the firm's celebration, but this time, suddenly, I wanted to go, because Naomi had just posted a WeChat update. This year, and every year, attached was a photo of a heart-shaped cream cake, decorated with a cartoon drawing of a boy and a girl, faintly recognizable as her and Philip, dressed in high school uniforms. They had met in high school. Looked like she was feeling nostalgic. I just wanted to see it for myself. What she meant by this year, and every year. Chapter 8. The law firm was warmly decorated. On the way there, I bought a carton of yogurt. By the time I arrived, the event had already started. I was a bit late, but in a way, perfect timing is better than early. At that moment, Philip and Naomi were standing side by side in front of the barbecue grill. Naomi, probably having stood too long with her pregnant belly, was holding her lower back in discomfort. She rubbed her back and frowned, playfully complaining to Philip. He said a few words to her. She pouted and shook her head, just like a girl whining to her boyfriend. Then Philip reached out and began to gently massage her lower back. The yogurt in my hand was cold. I gripped it tightly. Sister-in-law? Why aren't you going over? It was Bruno, Philip's law firm partner. Though I didn't come to the firm often, I had visited enough that everyone knew who I was. I smiled and said, "In a bit." Bruno didn't understand why I was waiting until he turned and saw Philip massaging Naomi's back. What the F? Bruno looked back at me, stunned, then suddenly shouted, "Sister-in-law's here." Both Philip and Naomi looked over at once. In that instant, Philip immediately pulled his hand away from Naomi's back, as if he had touched a burning iron. He strode over to me in a rush. As if desperate to prove something, he pulled me into a tight embrace. Helen, there's really nothing going on between me and her, but this was the third time. Philip, I swallowed the bitter taste rising in my throat and gently pushed him. I brought you yogurt. Philip let go of me. His eyes sharp and searching, locked onto my face, trying to read something from it. I just smiled. My lips curved, my eyes arched. Something to protect your stomach before drinking. But, did I interrupt something? Philip shook his head and gripped my hand tightly, so tightly, as if afraid I'd run. Not at all. I'm really happy you came. He led me to another grill. Purposefully keeping a distance, he didn't even glance Naomi's way. It was Naomi who came over, smiling as she greeted me. Helen, you came too, I said. Just dropping off yogurt for Philip. I'll be leaving soon. Philip wanted to leave with me. Naomi's mask cracked. She looked as if she couldn't believe Philip would actually choose me. Always proud of her grace and poise, she finally broke and tried to stop him. Philip, are you really going to leave me here alone? Philip hesitated for a moment. Then he said, I'll ask Bruno to take you home. Over the next few days, Philip came home early every day. He spent most of his time at home, even taking care of all the housework. He also bought me more and more handbags and jewelry. I accepted them gladly, and the more I accepted, the more eagerly he shopped. But as days passed and I stayed calm, Philip started to seem uneasy. He held me and kissed me impatiently. Why aren't you angry? I knew exactly why, but I played dumb. Angry about what? On my birthday, I helped Naomi. Philip, you were the one who asked me to trust you. He grew agitated for no reason, running his hand through his hair. I don't even know what's wrong. I just feel like this isn't how you should be acting. Helen, he gave up trying to explain the source of his frustration, and instead kissed my fingertips as he spoke softly. I've handed Naomi's case over to Bruno. I won't have any further contact with her. I listened in silence. Philip said he'd cut ties with Naomi, but Naomi asked to meet me, right when my pregnancy symptoms were at their worst. Chapter 9. I turned her down twice, saying I wasn't feeling well, but I didn't expect her to show up at my office. It was near the end of the workday when I came out of the restroom, and the receptionist told me a woman named Naomi was here to see me. I knew it was her, but I didn't rush out. I had just been dry heaving in the bathroom. My face was pale. I looked weak, completely lacking presence. So I touched up my makeup. Naomi and I sat down at a tea cafe downstairs from the office. Her first sentence was, "You're clever." I kept a neutral expression. Every time I meet with Philip, You ask him to bring something back for you. Did you do that on purpose? That way, even if he's with me, he can't help but be reminded of you. I had always known Naomi would figure it out eventually, but I wasn't afraid of her knowing. She poured me a cup of tea. Thank you for keeping Philip company during these past few hard months. But now I'm back. He doesn't need you anymore. The nausea surged again. I tried my best to suppress it. Naomi continued. May 16th, that's the day I officially started dating my ex-husband. So when Philip was with you on that day, it was to spite me. The nausea twisted into stabbing pain. Cold sweat formed at my temples. I clenched my teeth, refusing to let a single crack show. December 3rd, that's the day I got my marriage certificate with my ex. And Philip showed off your marriage certificate the very next day. That was also to get back at me. My lips were bleeding from how hard I was biting them. The metallic taste of blood filled my mouth. My stomach began to cramp violently, waves of pain making it almost impossible to sit upright. Helen. Naomi looked at me with a face full of pity. I didn't want to say it, but I have to. Philip being with you has always been a reaction to me. If I had never left, there never would have been room for you. I couldn't hold it in any longer. I stood up and rushed to the restroom. There was nothing in my stomach, so I couldn't throw up. But the nausea and cramps were draining every ounce of my strength. The rage and helplessness inside me made me want to tear everything around me apart. Why? Why the hell? And yet, in the end, I could only slide to the floor, curl into a ball, and quietly wait for the pain to pass. When I came out of the restroom, I was back to normal. Thankfully, I'd slipped a tube of lipstick into my bag earlier. At least now I looked just like I had before. Naomi, still playing polite, asked. You were gone a while. Are you all right? Bit of a stomach issue. Sorry to keep you waiting. Then, do I need to say anything more? Naomi looked directly at me. A clean, sharp-edged dismissal. A verbal eviction notice. The pain in my stomach now felt like it had moved to my heart, as if someone was grabbing it, squeezing and releasing, over and over again with cruel precision. My hand was tightly gripping the underside of the table. I adjusted my breathing. I smiled. You want my place that badly? If I give it to you, won't your place become vacant instead? A place left empty by someone who can't have love, but can't forget it either. Chapter 10. Naomi wanted everything. She said, when I'm with Philip, his life is complete. There won't be another person like me. I let out a small laugh. Naomi, life doesn't work like that. Our conversation ended abruptly. Back home, I opened a storage cabinet. From dating, to marriage, to today, all the gifts Philip had given me, and I had given him, marking every special day between us, were stored inside. In that moment, all the emotions I had been holding back suddenly exploded. I destroyed every single memento. If I couldn't tear it by hand, I used scissors, until everything, once whole, became scattered and broken. Even the prenatal report he had never noticed. But the anger and frustration inside me only grew fiercer. There was no outlet, nowhere to release it. I felt suffocated. The nausea surged all at once. I rushed into the bathroom. I threw up until there was nothing left but bile. Philip came home and walked in, gently patting my back. Are you okay? But the turmoil in my chest kept growing, like a balloon ready to burst. In a rage, I tackled him to the floor and pressed the scissors against his neck. Philip, just die. His eyes were filled with nothing but gentle warmth. If it'll make you feel better. Every time, it felt like he loved me. But also, every time, it felt like he loved someone else too. My mind suddenly cleared. Almost there, but not yet. Philip carried me to the bed. I stared blankly at the ceiling, and images flashed rapidly through my mind. I said, Philip, stay with me more these days, okay? I made a to-do list. On it, besides me and him, was an imaginary baby. Philip agreed, and he followed through. First task. In the living room, before bedtime, Philip made me a cup of warm milk. After I drank it, he told me to go to bed. I walked into the bedroom, then came out holding a can of infant formula and a baby bottle. Philip looked puzzled. I smiled faintly. Didn't you say you wanted a baby? You'll need to learn how to make formula, right? At first, He was clumsy, getting the water ratio wrong, the temperature too hot, just all over the place, but he got oddly into it, really enjoyed himself. By the time he got it right a few times, he even joked about taking the formula downstairs to find a baby to feed. I checked off the first item on the list. Second task. In the kitchen, I prepped ingredients, and Philip did the cooking. But today, I set aside a small portion of ingredients. Philip was confused. I said, "The baby's getting older now, we can start giving him solid food." Philip panicked, pulled out his phone, and frantically looked up recipes for baby food. He could cook, and after a few tries, he got the hang of it. Making baby food was no problem for him. He even started trying new variations daily, with a balanced mix of fruits, rice, veggies, and protein. I checked off the second item on the list. Third task. As Philip was getting ready to leave work, I called him and asked him to buy baby safety railings and a crawling mat. I told him, "We'll need to clear a space at home, so the baby has a place to play." He happily agreed. Lately, Philip had become obsessed with playing the role of dad. It was like opening a mystery box every day. He couldn't wait to see what new first-time dad task I'd assign him next. While shopping for railings and mats, he kept video calling me. He asked the store staff detailed questions about materials, analyzing like he was prepping a case. He took forever to pick them out. By the time he got home, the mall had already closed. It was past 10 p.m., but he was in high spirits. Not tired at all. He immediately cleared a corner of the living room, set up the safety railing, and laid down the play mat. "We'll let the baby play in here from now on." Philip hugged me from behind, his voice full of excitement as he pointed to the little corner made just for a child. I checked off the third item on the list. The fourth task. I asked Philip to look into kindergartens. He researched a wide range of options, then settled on a bilingual school that cost over 40,000 yuan per semester. I said it was too expensive. Philip replied, "It's okay, our baby can't lose at the starting line." Later, he went out on his own to look at little backpacks for kids. He bought 4 boys' designs and 4 girls. We don't know if it'll be a boy or a girl, so I bought both kinds. They can switch them up later. I smiled and said okay, then carefully arranged the backpacks in the children's room. I checked off the fourth item on the list. The fifth task. Philip went to visit elementary schools. The sixth task. Philip checked out middle schools. The seventh task. I sat down with Philip to discuss extracurriculars. If it's a boy, he should learn Go and Taekwondo. If it's a girl, she should take piano and dance classes. The next day, Philip changed his mind on his own. These can only be our suggestions. If the child has their own interests, we should respect that. I checked off the seventh item on the list. The eighth task. The ninth. The 10th. The 16th. This one wasn't a task. It was a question. Chapter 11. I asked him, "Philip, if we had a daughter, what kind of person would you want her to marry?" Philip didn't hesitate. "She never has to marry if she doesn't want to." I looked at him quietly. He gave in and answered seriously. "Of course, someone who loves her with all his heart, who cares for her, who accepts her entirely, someone who never lets her suffer or feel wronged." And what if that person has someone else in his heart? Divorce. I'll personally handle the case for her and make sure he loses everything. What if she's pregnant? No discussion. Abort it. That's her being responsible to herself and to the child. Abortion and divorce is the most proper way to handle it. I nodded in agreement. "You're right." Philip lifted me into his arms. "Helen, when will our baby finally arrive?" He seemed to really yearn for our child. He seemed to truly want to build a life with me. But he wanted this and that and everything. He wanted it all. Philip fell asleep beside me. Then a message popped up on his phone. "Philip, my due date is in a week. On that day, I want you with me." Another unread message came from a postpartum care center, confirming his reservation. I opened the shopping history. Philip had purchased a delivery kit, along with countless supplies for both pregnant mothers and newborns. It was thorough, considerate. His search history was full of topics like how to care for a postpartum mother, what to pay attention to during postpartum confinement, how to deal with postpartum depression, How to choose the most trustworthy maternity nanny. While he was indulging in the role of a loving dad with me, he was also preparing everything for Naomi. One side for me, one side for her. Just how many roles did he think he could play? Bang! The phone smashed against the wall. The screen shattered like a spider web. Philip woke up in shock and instinctively hugged me. What's wrong? I had a nightmare. Thought your phone was a centipede biting me in my dream and smashed it. Sorry. He didn't care about the phone. He just held me tighter. Go back to sleep. I'm here with you. I was relieved. All the items on the checklist had been completed. And one day, all these memories would become the sharpest blades. Philip suddenly became busier. He told me the firm had taken on more cases. I didn't ask. Sometimes he wouldn't come home until the middle of the night. Often, during thunderstorms, he would take a call and leave immediately. Every time he left, I'd quietly pack my things. During this time, Naomi posted a WeChat update. It was a photo taken from the passenger seat. No caption, but I recognized it instantly. It was Philip's car. We had picked that car out together. I had once played a bit of the spoiled girlfriend and told Philip, no one else is allowed to sit in the passenger seat but me. Philip didn't say anything at the time, but that seat was never adjusted. I curled my lips. If I sat there again now, I'd probably have to readjust the seat, but it didn't matter anymore. I'd already scheduled my surgery on the same day as Naomi's due date. The day before the surgery was the anniversary of my mother's death. After she passed, my father remarried. I was raised by my grandmother. After she passed 2 years ago, I had no real family left. Philip, not wanting me to feel alone, would always accompany me on that day. No matter what he had going on, rain or shine, he would go with me to visit my mother. But this year, he seemed to have forgotten what today meant. All he remembered was that Naomi went into labor early. Her water broke. The delivery was difficult. And now, he was outside the delivery room, praying for her and her child to be safe. Chapter 12. I bought flowers and some offerings, then drove up the mountain alone. I sat in front of the tombstone for a long time and talked to Mom about many things. About work, about life, about Philip. Mom, Philip didn't come this year. He won't be coming again in the future. I've decided to divorce him. So now, I'll be on my own again. I sniffled, then smiled. But it's okay. You don't have to worry about me. I'll live well on my own, make lots and lots of money, buy a big house, and give myself a good life. As the sky darkened, I drove back down the mountain. When I got home, just as expected, Philip still wasn't back. No surprise. Almost laughable. I messaged Carolina. Can you come help me move? Without another word, she came straight over, looking at the things I had already packed. She said, "You've got to at least let your moving labor know why." I gave a faint smile. Philip is with Naomi. She's in labor. Let's go. No. Let's run out of here. When the last item was moved out of the house, I turned back for one last look. Sometimes, letting go was just that simple. I smiled and closed the door behind me. Chapter 13. Philip frowned. A wave of panic rose in his chest. It felt like he had forgotten something very important. He reached for his phone to check his notes, but realized it wasn't on him. Just as he was about to head to the car to look for it, the doors of the delivery room swung open. The nurse told him it was a girl. Mother and daughter were both safe. He had to set aside the thought of finding his phone for now, and went to handle paperwork to take care of Naomi. When Naomi woke up and looked at the baby, she suggested that he name her, but the person who came to his mind was Helen. What would it have been like if he and Helen had a child? He would definitely be a good dad. After all, he had already done the internship. He had even scouted middle schools. He would absolutely, undoubtedly, be able to take good care of a child with Helen. Philip's lips curled into a smile. Without thinking, he said, "Freya. Her nickname will be Fifi." Naomi smiled. "That sounds lovely. I'm sure the baby will like it." Philip snapped out of it and frowned. "Naomi, you misunderstood. That's the name I picked for the child I imagined having with Helen." Naomi froze. "Your child with Philip. Have you fallen in love with Helen?" Philip didn't deny it. When you came back, I was confused too. I wasn't sure how I really felt about you. But recently, I finally figured it out. A faint smile appeared at the corners of Philip's lips. The first time I imagined having a child with Helen, the first time I prepared formula like a real dad. I realized I genuinely wanted to have a child with Helen. With you. There was nostalgia, unresolved feelings, even anger, but there was no love. The one I love is Helen. Tears slid down Naomi's cheeks. Then what about me? What am I? Philip? What was all the care you gave me these past few months? Take it as a misunderstanding I created by not being honest with myself. Naomi laughed through her tears. Philip, do you realize how cruel you're being? I'm sorry. If you ever need anything, I'll help in any way I can. After saying this, Philip felt an enormous weight lift from his chest. He suddenly missed Helen. Desperately, he wanted to contact her right away. He finally found his phone, but when the reminder popped up from his calendar, it felt like plunging into an icy abyss. Yesterday was the anniversary of Helen's mother's death? He had forgotten. How could he have forgotten? Panic spread through him like a spark dropped in a pile of dry foam. Instant ignition, reduced to ashes in seconds. He called Helen. Sorry. The number you've dialed is currently unavailable. Please try again later. Sorry. The number you've dialed is currently unavailable. Please try again later. Sorry. The number you've dialed is currently unavailable. Please try again later. Pick up. Why wasn't she picking up? Philip raced home as fast as he could. Most things in the house were unchanged. The baby supplies they had prepared were still there. But something was missing. His first instinct was to rush to the wardrobe. Only his clothes were left. Not just that. Every trace of her life in the house was gone, as if she had completely erased herself from his world. Suddenly, Philip remembered something. He opened a storage cabinet. When he saw all the broken items inside, he collapsed to the floor, completely drained. This cabinet had once held the mementos of every milestone they had shared. Helen had once said, these were the most important things between them. If she ever discarded them, it meant she was done with him. Impossible. Helen loved him so much. There's no way she would leave. She had liked him for so many years. He had always known that. But when he flipped to a torn-up prenatal report, Philip was suddenly struck with terror. Helen was pregnant? The date on the report was from 3 months ago, exactly when Naomi had returned. And for the past 3 months, he had known nothing. Philip's pupils widened in shock. No, it wasn't that he knew nothing. Helen had hinted at it many times. In the past 3 months, Helen had made excuses to avoid being intimate. She had dry-heaved badly a few mornings. She had started wearing loose clothing. She had suddenly asked him to play the role of a dad. If only he had been more attentive. If only he hadn't been so distracted by Naomi's return. It turned out, Helen had known everything. She wasn't not angry. She was slowly building disappointment. Piece by piece. Philip knew how stubborn Helen could be. He had to find her, beg for her forgiveness, tell her he loved her. But no matter what he did, he couldn't find Helen anywhere. Chapter 14. The next time I saw Philip was 3 months after I had the abortion. I knew he had been looking for me all this time, but he wasn't all-powerful. If I made an effort to disappear, there was no way he could find me. This time, it was me who reached out to him, to talk about the divorce. Philip looked worn out. Stubble shadowed his jaw, and his once polished shirt was now wrinkled and dull. The first thing he asked when he saw me was, "Is the baby still there?" I looked at him calmly. He already knew the answer. His eyes were bloodshot. He took off the black backpack he was carrying and started pulling out baby items one by one. This is a new bottle I bought. This is the outfit for when the baby turns 1 month. This is for 3 months. This is for 7 months. This is a silver bracelet. This is a longevity necklace. That's enough. Philip. I cut him off. But he didn't stop. He silently continued laying out everything from the bag. Helen. Philip reached out to hug me. I stepped back. His outstretched hands fell helplessly to his sides. I've been looking for you all this time. I missed you so much. Helen, I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have gone to Naomi when you were pregnant. I I didn't want to hear it. I cut him off again and pulled out a divorce agreement. Sign it. He stared at me in disbelief, eyes red, rambling to himself. I kept all the things we bought for the baby. The play mat got a little moldy from the damp, so I replaced it with a new one. I don't know if you'll like the color. Helen, will you come back with me and take a look? I repeated. Philip, sign the papers. I won't. I can't sign that. He tore the divorce papers in front of him. I calmly took out an entire box of copies. How many do you want to rip? Will this be enough? Helen, I've already lost our child. Every day I come home and see the things we prepared. You don't know how much it hurts. I've gone mad wanting to be a father. But the thought that I was the reason we lost the baby, it's like being skinned alive. Isn't that punishment enough? Why won't you forgive me? Forgive you? I let out a laugh. And what about me? You were with me because Naomi started dating someone else. You married me because Naomi married someone else. The moment she came back, you lost your soul, and now you want me to forgive you? Philip's face turned deathly pale. You knew all of that. He began pleading again. Helen, I don't love Naomi anymore. I love you now. I laughed out loud. I loved you for 3 years, and now you say you love me? Philip, sign the papers. Don't make me lose all respect for you. In the end, Philip signed, but he looked at me with stubborn determination. Helen, I'm not giving up on you. I signed this to end a relationship that wasn't fair to you, but now I'll start over. I'll win you back, show you what's truly in my heart. Philip could be frighteningly obsessive at times. Part of the reason his law firm had become so successful was thanks to that obsessive nature, but he'd always known how to control it. This time, though, he looked like a man possessed. Chapter 15. Philip followed me every day. Normally, he wouldn't interfere with my life, but whenever I had a free moment, he would take off his backpack and show me what was inside. Sometimes it was a bottle of prepared formula. Sometimes it was homemade baby food. Sometimes it was baby clothes in various sizes for different stages. He would present them to me like treasures. At first, I ignored him, thinking that eventually he'd give up on his own, but he clung to me like glue, impossible to shake off. I grew irritated and finally snapped, holding back my temper as I said, Philip, if you want to stay trapped in your memories, that's your choice, but don't drag me back with you. Do you know how I feel when I think about the past now? I feel sick. Why do you think that just because you say you love me, I have to accept it? Aren't you trying to win me back? Then here's my answer. I will never forgive you in this lifetime, and I will never be with you again. So stop being pathetic, Philip. Philip stood there in despair, as if all the strength in his body had been drained. After that, he stopped showing up around me, but Naomi suddenly contacted me. Helen, are you satisfied now? Philip's mind is filled with nothing but you and that baby that never existed. He has no room left for me. I coldly replied. Shouldn't I be the one asking you that? I already stepped aside. What more do you want? You planned to leave from the start. You never intended to keep Philip's child, but you let him believe in the dream of being a father, just to shatter it in the end, and make sure he knew it was his fault for handing you the knife. Now he spends all day at home, holding a doll, calling it the child you two were supposed to have. Naomi's emotions grew more and more unhinged. I had no interest in tolerating her hysterical rage. I hung up the phone, but Naomi kept sending me videos every day. In each one, Philip was holding a doll in his arms. Sometimes he called it Freya, sometimes Fifi. Those were the names he once told me he wanted to give our daughter. I felt nothing. I blocked Naomi. Another month passed. The police contacted me, asking if I knew someone named Philip. They needed me to come handle the situation. I told them to contact someone else. The officer said, "He only remembers your number." I was forced to go to the station. The officer explained what had happened. Philip had brought a doll to a kindergarten, insisting on enrolling it. The principal had refused multiple times and finally had to call the police. If a family member is struggling mentally, we suggest you keep an eye on him. He seems very dependent on you. Philip walked over to me, still holding the doll, his expression soft, his eyes full of gentle affection. Helen, Let's go enroll Fifi in kindergarten together. I looked at him calmly. Philip, drop the act. His expression froze for a moment. But he still tried to take my hand. Helen, let's go enroll Fifi in kindergarten together. I snatched the doll from his arms and threw it on the ground. Don't play the mental illness card. Even if you died right now, I wouldn't blink. I turned and walked out of the police station. Behind me, his hoarse voice called out, "If I die, will you finally forgive me?" The wind was strong. I didn't look back. Chapter 16. Later on, I ran into Naomi. Her face was sallow, and she had lost a significant amount of weight. She glared at me with hatred in her eyes. I passed by her calmly, like a breeze. I vaguely remembered Carolina mentioning something, that Naomi had tried to claim child support from her ex-husband, but it was later discovered that the child wasn't his. Now, her ex was suing her, demanding compensation for various expenses. She was a mess, covered in mud. Then, I got another call from Naomi. Her voice trembled, laced with tears. "Helen, Philip's not doing well right now. If you still have a shred of conscience, please come see him." I stayed silent. "No," I said. "No conscience. That thing? It got fed to the dogs during those 3 years.